Alright, episode 38, and today we're talking about the Colombian White-Faced Capuchin Monkey. Now, on top of it being a very long name, the animal is also quite interesting. As a matter of fact, some of the most interesting parts is the fact that it is both very unique and not very unique. Let me explain. So, the Colombian White-Faced Capuchin, or the scientific name being the Capuchins, which comes from the Greek word of kabos, which means long-tailed monkey, and capucinus. I mean, it's capuchin. Duh. So, the animal itself is actually a subspecies of capuchins. So, there are about 5 different species that the white-faced capuchin is a part of that do not consist all capuchins, because more capuchin monkeys are further delineated from that. It's very confusing, and I really just couldn't find a great representation for it, so we're just gonna consider it a subspecies and move on. Now, this specific species was first documented in the 1758 edition of the Systema Naturae by Carl Linnaeus, who was a Swedish naturalist and author. Now, the other part of their name, Capuchin, actually has a pretty long backstory, and I figure there's no better time to discuss it than right now, while we're speaking about its more scientific name. So, the term Capuchin actually comes from the Catholic Order of Friars Minor Capuchin. That is its whole name. Dear God. And if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of long names in this episode. So, this was a religious order of the Franciscan friars, which formed under the Catholic order. Their uniforms consisted of a hood, which was known as a capucho or a capuche. When the Portuguese first came across the capuchin monkey, mind you, this was not the white-faced capuchin that we were speaking of, just the other species of capuchins that are mostly brown, they felt that their coat actually properly displayed similarly to the capuchin order's robes. Now, as for the white-faced part, I truly hope I don't have to actually explain that, nor do I need to explain the Colombian part, seeing how this species is native to the northwestern sections of Colombia along the coast, as well as southern Panama and northwest Ecuador. Species weighs roughly 6.6 to 8.8 pounds and has a body length of 13 to 18 inches. However, its length is more than doubled most of the time, with its tail being an additional 14 to 22 inches. It is known as one of the smartest New World monkeys, which have been noted to use both stone tools and problem solving to help in their endeavors in foraging. This intelligence actually really aided them when it comes to their involvement in modern culture, that being one of the most common monkey species to be used in film and media. As a matter of fact, you probably have seen specifically the white-faced capuchin in a lot of movies, some of which are constant favorites. Movies like Pirates of the Caribbean or Night at the Museum. Many capuchin monkeys have been brought into theater, and probably the most famous one would be Crystal, who actually starred in a lot of very highly rated movies, including, but not limited to, previously mentioned Night at the Museum, American Pie, The Hangover Part 2, and Zookeeper. Now, this is not an extensive list in any sense, but I assure you it is quite fascinating nonetheless. Now, before we get a little bit further into this, into the animal's information, I want to discuss what I'm doing right now, and that is adding vines to the exhibit. You see, vines are very tricky. They're kind of difficult to get properly set up in a way that is visually appealing on trees, at least in the game. However, when you have smaller climbing animals, like a capuchin, they make for very useful climbing terrain as they can be traversed by smaller animals. Using that, I plan to make a connecting path that is both natural looking yet unique between 3 of the major trees in the exhibit. Speaking of climbing, the capuchin is completely arboreal and is only occasionally seen on the forest floor. Now, a group of capuchins, or monkeys in general, is known as a troop. This you may know, but you may not know that the average capuchin troop can consist of anywhere from 10 to 40 individuals, so making a large exhibit like this is not obscene. And when they go on large treks to find new lands, they will actually traverse in a single file line and have even been known to cross bodies of water relatively well, even though many monkey species may not be the greatest swimmers. Now, slightly backtracking to their intelligence and movie industry insights, the capuchin monkey is also known to be extremely sociable. Obviously, with a large troop like 10 to 40, it would make sense that they have a more complicated and diverse communication structure. The capuchin has been known to communicate in many different ways, including the standard that you would expect with sound and pheromones, but also have been noted to have very specific facial expressions. The animals also have been known to have rudimentary traditions. Now, what do I mean by traditions? Essentially, what I mean is they will have small... what's the term? Small cultural norms on a troop-by-troop basis. So it's not just all capuchins may have this, but a certain troop would adapt it. For instance, if we were to use a human comparison, consider the way that we nod and shake our head. Here in the United States and much of the world, shaking your head is a no, and nodding your head is a yes. While in places like the Balkans, where there can be a few different forms of the head nod structure, like that in Greece of a nod up being yes and a nod down being no, or in places like Albania or Bulgaria, where it is inverted, where nodding the head is no and shaking the head is yes. As well as some things that are a little bit more obscure, like how many cultures may remove their shoes when entering a home out of respect. The capuchin monkey may have some form of greeting between one another, or some way that they would prepare their food specifically. Now, there is one practice that does somewhat transcend the troop-by-troop nature, and it is absolutely disgusting. And what it is something known as urine washing, where essentially the capuchin will urinate on its hands and wash its face with said urine. We have no idea why they do this. I am not exaggerating. It has been seen and practiced many times, and there has not been a single record by a zoologist explaining why they do this. It doesn't lead to any sort of health benefits. It's not something that deters insects. Maybe they think it aids in smell, but that's the only guess we have, and it truly is just a guess. Now, due to its very sociable nature and its appearances on the big screen, some of the issues that the capuchin monkey faces are those that you would expect. One of the big ones is the illegal pet trade. The other is deforestation, no surprise there. And another is overhunting. I believe I said this in the bonobo episode, but why are you eating monkeys? I feel like they're far too human to feel comfortable eating. And on top of that, how many capuchins do you need to make a meal? All right, how big? They're only like 8 pounds. Like, I'm trying to compare it with something I could think of that weighs 8 pounds. Like, I've caught an 8-pound fish. That could feed a person, but, like, there's got to be better things to eat than monkeys. It's in the Amazon River. The last episode was the collared peccary. That has to be much more appetizing than a frickin' monkey, man. But anyway, let me jump off that topic before I truly lose my mind. So the last little bit of information I have is a lot more general of information. Not only is it just general for capuchins, but it is general with all New World monkeys. And for those who may not have caught on, New World monkey just means it's a monkey from the Americas. Old World monkeys are going to be the ones from Africa, Europe, and Asia. Now, pretty much with every episode, and I've discussed how animals entered South America or North America would be through land bridges, whether it be when Panama was formed leading from North to South America, or the Bering Land Bridge between Alaska and Russia. The introduction of monkeys into the New World is actually a fairly different story. The leading theory, of course, because we do not know for sure, the leading theory, due to there not being any monkeys in North America and only in South and Central America, is that they somehow got there before the connection to North America, which means they did not at any point come across the Bering Strait. The only scientific explanation that I've been able to find for this is the idea that at some point large plant matter rafts had been blown away from Africa, where all primate ancestors come from, and either through a storm or some natural phenomenon had traveled their way to South America with monkeys. There's an idea that there may have been islands that have now been submerged between South America and Africa, but there's, again, no solid scientific proof. Quite honestly, it is a mystery that I feel is going to take a long time to figure out, because obviously they weren't able to sail there through their own accord, and we know they didn't come from the north. So, if anyone has any theories, whether it is scientifically based or not, I would love to see them in the comments. Feel very much free to spout whatever psychotic nonsense that you want, because quite honestly, I find it very much entertaining. Other than that, I really have no information when it comes to the evolutionary process of the capuchin monkey. There isn't that much fossil record, just for the mere fact of, well, there's no real big digs in South America, especially in the jungles, where it's very, very difficult. Well, with that somewhat disappointing end, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I have some things planned up in the woodwork. I know I've said that before, but this time I truly mean it. It's probably going to be sooner rather than later, if everything works out well. And until next time, go outside, drink water, hug your loved ones, and I will see you in the next episode when we end up going down the common road. Ooh. It'll make more sense later. Don't worry about it. All right, bye. Have a good one.